So this afternoon I will reflect on the 4 Brahmaviharas. These are translated into English. Brahma is translated as divine, the 4 divine abodes. So in English the word divine relates to heaven, is something transcendent or perfect. And so these 4 Brahmaviharas are, they're ideals. They're 4 beautiful ideas that we translate metta as the first Brahmavihara. Metta is loving kindness. The second is karuna, compassion. Third is mudita, sympathetic joy. The 4th one is equanimity. So these, intellectually we can understand. We want to define them like metta, loving kindness, and we use English words best we can find to describe metta, but loving kindness it can be interpreted in many ways. But actual metta means love in the sense of unconditioned love. It's not about what I personally prefer or think about who's worthy of my love or anything like that. It's not about in spreading metta. We spread it to all sentient beings, good or bad, devils, angels, the whole lot. So this is unconditioned love, where the word love in English oftentimes is conditioned. I love this person, but I don't love that person. So that is about love that is very personal, who I like, who I approve of. I love that person. But that one is troublesome, difficult. I don't like it, don't love it all. So in the Christian tradition, we call it unconditioned love. So what do we mean by that? By love, the word love, or by metta? It means isn't love what holds things together? If there's no love, everything falls apart. So in a war that goes on, there's no love, loving kindness there. There's anger, hatred, prejudice, biases that we're operating from as individuals. But if there's metta, or loving kindness, then the enemy we love, our own troops we love, our group, our tribe, our cult, our sangha we love, as well as every other sentient being. So as an ideal, that is a beautiful ideal. But what is the reality of it? What can me as an individual person love every sentient being on the planet? Or beings I can't even know about, like the devils or angels? So when we see it in a personal way, we can't really have loving kindness. We can create the illusion of it by positive thinking. But the minute something happens that we don't like, then we're back in the mode of our conditioned reaction to life, our initial conditioning of getting angry and violent and disillusioned. So from my own insight into love, It is pure conscious awareness. Because as you begin to recognize pure, unconditioned consciousness as your refuge, then that isn't about personal, I don't create that as a personal identity. It's not me or mine anymore. It's what's natural, what's real, the reality of being. So love is what holds everything together. If there's no loving kindness, there'd be nothing. So in terms of other religions, like God is about love, and Jesus Christ is about love, and love is in the air. And it brings people together. Two people that love each other like to be with each other. When they don't love each other anymore, they separate. So love is a very powerful reality in the human experience. And the English word love is used for anything, it's used for liking fish and chips, or sweets, or certain places or things, but so it's a very dodgy word to use because it means oftentimes sexual attraction or personal preference. But in the terms of metta, it's not about that anymore. It's not about me and my personal preferences, but it's about Dhamma, or ultimate reality. Then the second Brahmavihara, or divine abode, is karuna, or compassion. So compassion is our ability to feel the suffering of others, to recognize the ignorance of the world, how people suffer oftentimes in ways that they shouldn't be suffering. Like war creates endless suffering around the planet. So compassion, when we just notice when you read about what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, there's a sense of compassion for people, for women, for children being disabled at an early age, and so on like that, so that we naturally feel compassion, or most of us feel a sense of compassion at the injustices and sadness of life as we witness it, as we experience it. So it's a truly divine state to be able to feel compassion, and seeing it personally, like trying to identify with compassion, is not developing the Brahmavihara of karuna, but we're not trying to make me a separate person, a compassionate person. As an ideal, I would think I would like to be a compassionate person. But the person is very conditioned. and it can love the idea of compassion and want to feel compassion. But the reality of compassion is through non-personal recognition of Dhamma the way it is. So these are divine states, blessed states. And when we try to become compassionate or unconditionally loving, that's a noble effort. But the real obstacle, what's in the way of really fulfilling that, is the sense of a separate self. As long as I'm deluded by how I'm conditioned, by Sakya Ditti, by the ego, then that ego isn't conditioned for these noble states of mind. It's conditioned to like the idea of them, but the actual experience of life as an individual is a real challenge for most of us, because the world we experience through these forms is not ideal. This is not an ideal society or planetary life. An ideal is being able to create in your mind how things should be if everything was perfect. So when we become disillusioned with life, when we might be idealistic when we're young, when we think we're going to change the world and make it better, that's a very noble ideal. It's an ideal. So I'm pointing out and emphasize that it's a good ideal, noble, but what always turns us cynical, turns us into a critic, into an angry person, is the fact that what we're experiencing is not ideal. The experience of what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, what we think, is not ideal. An ideal cannot be permanent. But it is the way it is. The third divine abode, Brahmavihara, is mudita, or sympathetic joy. It's translated in English as sympathetic joy, the joy that we experience. Because the world that we experience through the senses, we have experiences of joy at the goodness of others, at the beauty of spring, of flowers, of generosity. But mudita is extended to everything rather than to just what I experience in the springtime or when I'm being recognized and appreciated and flattered. But it's a selfless response to things, to life as we have to live with our egos, which are very conditioned to be jealous. If somebody kind of is better than me, or claims to be better than me, or gets more appreciation than I do, becomes richer than I do, then jealousy arises. So jealousy is a human emotion, it's not a divine abode. So trying to annihilate jealousy doesn't work. Because ideally we don't want to be jealous. As an ideal, I don't want to be a jealous person. But the reality of the personal conditioning that I experience, jealousy arises. So then jealousy is seen as, somebody told me once that to deal with jealousy, just spread loving kindness to the person you're jealous of. And that doesn't work. You can kind of say the words, and want to wish that you were actually not jealous, but that's the self-view still operating. Can the Sakya Ditti, or the ego, it can be modified through reason, logic, through experience, but basically the conditioning takes place in our early years of life, when we're innocent children. We're stuck with an ego for a lifetime, from childhood to old age. So jealousy, when it arises, is to witness it, because it is impermanent and it's not self. So all these, like the lack of compassion or selfishness, all these things that aren't ideal, when we see them in a personal way, we can feel guilty, ashamed. We want to hide it from others. We want to get rid of it. We want to become perfect human beings by kind of willfully changing our way of thinking, our perspective. But it's not, the conditioning process is very, very deep, because when you're a child, you aren't asking for the best conditioning, you're getting what's offered. You have no choice. And innocent children, what we love about children is their innocence, their spontaneity. Because we lose that as we get older. We lose our innocence and that spontaneity of children. Because we are conditioned to see ourselves in various terms, positive or negative terms. And that's the ego, that's the Sakya Ditti. So like fear, jealousy, selfishness, greed, anger, hatred, are a part of our experience as human individuals. There's no perfect human beings, because perfect human beings are conditions. So what is not perfect, what is perfect is mindfulness, conscious awareness. Because that is here and now. It's not about time or space. And as I've given many reflections on conscious awareness, we all know we're conscious. That's a given assumption. But we're conscious, when we think that consciousness is what I am, then we claim it with words. We take it personally. I'm conscious. But conscious awareness, or sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension or complete, perfect understanding, is that all conditions are impermanent. Sape sankhara anicca, all phenomena, all conditions are impermanent. So that means everything. What we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, what we think, our emotional habits, our feelings of love and hate, our jealousies and fears, our regrets, our guilt, remorse,